assassin there. But so far, no one has ever known his true identity. In addition, Lennon also always keeps the person who hired him a secret. One night, Lennon was sent to kill an officer. But before launching the action, Lennon had to fight the bodyguards first. 3 of the bodyguards were killed with just one move. Not only that, Lennon is also known as a killer who always finishes his targets with just one breath. But for some reason, Lennon suddenly felt pain in his chest right after killing his target. Lennon immediately went to a doctor to find out about his illness. According to the doctor, Lennon had blocked blood vessels and a heart defect. The doctor also suggested that Lennon no longer to fight again because of his condition. In addition, Lennon also had to reduce biological activities, and if he wanted to making love, he had to do it slowly so that his heart would not beat fast. Lennon intended to kill him so that no one would know about his illness. But the doctor promised that he would keep the disease as a secret. The doctor also gave Lennon a potion that could temporarily reduce his pain. Since that night, Lennon no longer killed or had sex. But time by time, Lennon began to feel bored. He eventually went to the tavern to have a drink and fulfill his biological desires. At the same time, the doctor was visited by some hitmen and was forced to tell Lennon's illness. Long story short, someone was made a contest to kill Lennon. Unexpectedly, the woman who was with Lennon right now was one of the people who want to kill Lennon because of rewards. She was an assassin named Yoel who had hypnotic eyes. Lennon at that time saw Yoel's eyes. Before he affected by the hypnotic, Lennon immediately stabbed Yoel's eyes. Then he left the place. A year later, Lennon exiled himself to a small and remote village. There he lived in a huddle and often slept carelessly. As a result, all of Lennon's stuff were often stolen. This time, it was children who stole his stuffs. Even though Lennon had just been robbed, he seemed fine, as if nothing had happened. Afterwards, Lennon walked around the village to get some fresh air. However, on the way he saw a woman named Sun Hong who was being harassed by some thugs. At first, Lennon didn't want to interfere, because he wanted to keep his identity. That's why he chose the peaceful way. Seeing Lennon looking weak, the thugs underestimated him. The thugs now targeted Lennon instead. Lennon was also the victim of violence. Starting from being ganged up on to being trampled for Lennon's efforts to defend him, Sun Hong invited him to her shop. There Lennon was treated to a very delicious meal. Lennon even asked for more because it was so delicious. Not long after, Sun Hong's son Jilbok came to the shop. At first, Jilbok was very surprised why his mother brought the shabby man to the shop. Jilbok was also very worried that Lennon was a very dangerous person. However, after Jilbok felt that Lennon was trustworthy, he was no longer worried. Lennon was full and ready to continue his journey. Lennon also promised to pay for the food when he had the money. But Sun Hong didn't let him leave. Sun Hong actually hired Lennon as a waiter at the shop. Not only did he serve customers, but he was also told to chop firewood in the shop. After finishing work, Lennon was offered to stay at Sun Hong's house. Lennon would sleep with Jilbok in his room. As the night, Jilbok told him about his poor family story. Then Jilbok also said that he wanted to become an assassin so that he could take all down the bad guys. Jilbok also wanted to take revenge on the person who had killed his father. Because of Jilbok's words, his boss to kill several people. But after carrying out the order, Lennon felt very guilty. Moreover, he saw a woman crying over the death of her husband. As the days went on, Lennon go to a friend, let's call him Cho. He was a blacksmith and a person who knew a lot of information. At the blacksmith's place, Lennon only wanted to retrieve the stuffs and money that the children had stolen at that time. Luckily, the blacksmith had secured the stuffs. Before leaving, Lennon asked the blacksmith for help in finding Muang Kok on Mount Yan Rim. Lennon needed the potion for his illness could be cured. After telling that, Lennon chose to return to Sun Hong's shop. But before he left, Cho the blacksmith had warned Lennon to always be careful because many people were eager to kill him. A few moments later, Lennon arrived at Sun Hong's shop. Lennon immediately offered to become a permanent employee there. Sun Hong gladly accepted. However, first, Lennon had to learn to smile so that customers would not be disturbed and remain comfortable with his service. Not only learning to smile, Lennon must also be multitasking skill, like catch and slaughter chickens. The scene then moves to a prison. There, a bandit named Dochi was being held. Together with his men, Dochi, according to the court, would be executed the next day. Therefore, the prison authorities wanted to give them a good dinner. But the warden deliberately spilled his bowl so that the two bandits could not and killed the warden on guard. The next day, we are introduced to a judge named Kang. and evidence of the bandits' offense. Long story short, the area has been overrun by a group of bandits who own a drugs business and a gambling. But somehow the authorities couldn't find the evidence. After punishing them, Kang ordered his deputy Lai Bang to read out the arrest warrant from the governor. The letter contained instructions for the arrest of Dochi and his men of the mountain, so that the two bandits could not pass. It wasn't long before a woman suddenly walked in. This woman is Kang's mistress, Sewol. The members were relieved because thanks to Sewol, they could be free from Kang's punishment. On the other hand, Lenin and Jobak are at the market. They saw a contest poster with Dochi's face on it, and when returning from the market, they were detained by the road guard. However, they were finally allowed to pass because Lenin already had a status as a waiter at Sun Hong's shop. Later that night, Jobak suddenly fell ill. His temperature so high, so Sun Hong had to compress him while tending to his son. Sun Hong told Lenin about Jobak's father, who was killed by bandits, and until this day, Jobak still keeps his anger because his father's death. As night fell, Jobak dreamed of his father. Jobak suddenly touched Lenin's hand and called him father. At the same time, Judge Kang was visited by an assassin named Dalji, who was known as a very good swordsman. Directly, Dalji said that he was sent by his master to deliver a message. The message was told that Judge Kang must open access to the road, so that Dochi and his men can arrive safely at their place. If Judge Kang refuses, then Dalji will not hesitate to kill the entire Kang family. Judge Kang then told Dalji's threat to Lai Bang. Now Judge Kang must think of a best way so that can keep his position secure and his family is also safe. Lai Bang also had a suggestion. Lai Bang suggested that Judge Kang open one access road for Dochi to pass. However, the other road must be maintained in order to fulfill the governor's order. Because the situation was urgent, Judge Kang immediately agreed to the idea. After talking with the judge, Lai Bang immediately went to a bandit named Chun Sub from the Baka clan, which is the gang of Dochi from. It was revealed that Lai Bang was a corrupt officer. Lai Bang is also the one who sent Dalji to threaten Kang and his family. It was Lai Bang who have long been a corrupt officer, and Chun Sub asked Lai Bang for help again, so that Dochi could return to the headquarters and continue the throne of his brother Baka business. If Lai Bang fails, then his partnership with Bandit will end and Baka might kill him. On the other hand, Sun Hong and Lenin are cleaning up their shop intending to close it early, as Sun Hong wants to cook dinner for Jobak. But suddenly, they had two customers. They are Dochi and his men. Inevitably, Sun Hong was forced to serve them food. While eating, Dochi's men teased Sun Hong and Jobak. Suddenly, Jobak tried to stab Dochi. Unfortunately, Dochi can swiftly hold. Meanwhile, Sun Hong apologized for her son's actions. Sun Hong did not want her son to get hurt. She was also ready to do anything to make amends to Jobak. But unfortunately, Dochi ordered his men to cut off Jobak's hand. Lenin, who couldn't it happened, was finally forced to show his true abilities. With his skill, Lenin was able to break the sword while paralyzing Dochi's men. Lenin was able to defeat him with just a butcher knife. Then it was Dochi's turn to feel Lenin's brutality. With just a few hand movements, Lenin was able to kill Dochi. After that, Lenin immediately buried their bodies to avoid being suspected by the villagers and others people. Jobak was grateful for Lenin's help. However, Lenin told him to forget about the incident. The next day, Lai Bang received and he followed the path that Dochi passed. Then Lai Bang stopped in Sun Hong's shop, because only this place was the stopover and rest area on the route. While eating, Lai Bang asked Sun Hong whether she saw two bandits last night. Sun Hong pretended not to know. This made Lai Bang a little suspicious. Lai Bang, who was not satisfied with Sun Hong's answer, decided to interrogate Jobak. Lai Bang took Jobak to a secret warehouse. There Lai Bang waited until Jobak tell the truth. After getting answers from Jobak, Lai Bang and his members immediately dug up the graves of Dochi and his men. Lai Bang's members were surprised about what they found, because their lives would be in danger if bandit leader Baka knew that Dochi was dead. Baka will be mad full if he finds out about this brother. On the other hand, Lai Bang still looks calm and seems to know what to do. However, the blacksmith did not want to tell, and it made Lai Bang angry. Lai Bang slashed Cho's hand. As a result, Cho could not do anything in front of Lai Bang, and he was finally told everything. Without wasting any time, Lai Bang and his men met Lenin at Sun Hong's shop. Lai Bang intended to offer a deal because he knew that Lenin was a strong opponent to defeat. Here Lai Bang invited Lenin to cooperate in destroying the Baka bandit group was over. Lenin, inevitably, had to accept this agreement. Moreover, Lenin. This woman begged Linen to save Jilbak. Although Linen only seemed to be silent, he actually intended to help Jilbak. Before carrying out his mission, Linen decided to visit Cho. On the other hand, seeing Linen's presence, Cho had thought that Linen had come to kill him. However, Linen did not blame Cho's decision for telling them about himself. Linen just wanted to know about the origins of Lai Bang and Baka. Hearing that, Blacksmith Cho was a little relieved. He then told the background of Lai Bang, who was a swordsman. But somehow he turned into a mafia in the guise of an officer. Then, slowly Lai Bang began to control the drug market in his area. Now Lai Bang just needs to get rid of Baka so that his business will expand. Therefore, Lai Bang ordered Linen. On the other hand, Chunsub and his men confront Lai Bang after knowing about his bad plan against Baka. But Lai Bang still looks calm. Lai Bang then approaches and he must support Lai Bang's plan. At the same time, Linen was already in front of Baka's headquarters, and before he doing his mission, Linen secretly eliminated the guards. After that, Linen entered Baka's room and immediately challenged him to a fight. Quickly, Linen immediately stabbed Baka deeply in the stomach. However, it did not hurt Baka. Baka pulled out the sword stuck in his stomach. Then he attacked Linen very brutally. This was the first battle that could make Linen quite overwhelmed. But in the end, successful the mission, Linen planned to ask Lai Bang's promise. But unfortunately, Linen was intercepted by dozens of bandits in the middle of the forest. Here it is also revealed that Lai Bang cannot be trusted. So inevitably, Linen must defeat dozens of bandits in order to kill Lai Bang. By mobilizing his fighting moves, Linen was finally able to slaughter the bandits. Unfortunately, the move drained a lot of his energy and made his heart more badly. But Lai Bang didn't kill him on the spot, because Linen could still be sold to the people who had wanted so long to catch him. Meanwhile, Chunsub is still traumatized and scared after seeing Linen's brutality. Even though Chunsub has just been appointed as the new gang with a very strong iron chain, it making him unable to move much. Not long after, Lai Bang's men approached Linen and wanted to cut off his legs. Linen immediately kicked him against his body with his legs, then bit his neck until death. Dalji, who saw this, was interested in challenging Linen to a sword duel. Dalji let Linen release, then gave him a sword. Dalji is a warrior who never loses, just like Linen. Therefore, he was eager to defeat Linen so that he could be the only one in the land as a best fighter. Dalji confidently said that he could finish Linen in 10 moves. But it looked different. This fight was not difficult for Linen at all. With just one breath, Linen was able to stab. Linen immediately looked for Jilbak, but unfortunately, Jilbak was already dead. She felt very sad and felt devastated. Sun Hong then took a stuff container and wanted Linen to slaughter everyone involved in Jilbak's murder, and if the money was not enough, Sun Hong was willing to give his whole body to Linen. The next day, Lai Bang was shocked to find Dalji lifeless. On the same day, Lai Bang was also visited by a hitman, Linen. But Yool was not angry with Lai Bang, because she knew that Linen would definitely, even though they don't know each other. While Yool and Lai Bang were having a serious conversation, there was a sudden report that Chunsub and the bandits were attacking Lai Bang's territory. Chunsub wants to show who the real ruler is. Hearing that, Lai Bang asked Yool for help to defeat the bandits. But when they were to fight brutally, with fear Judge Kang, Lai Bang and his members locked the gate tightly so that Chunsub and his men could not enter. On the other hand, Chunsub thought that Lai Bang would open the door, but until late at night his members nervous. Lai Bang immediately mobilized all his troops to defeat Linen. Before attacking again, Linen had eaten a medicinal herb that was given by a doctor a year ago, which could only temporarily reduce his pain. However, it seemed like it was enough for Linen to buy time in the attack, because in a short time, Linen can take down. Yool finally take actions. Yool hypnotized the soldiers with her eyes and revived those who had fallen to fight again. Yool used her hypnotic eye again. Luckily, Linen was still able to survive and did not give up easily. Linen got back again, then beat Yool brutally. Yool's hypnotic eyes could not affect Linen this time. Seeing this, Lai Bang was immediately frightened. Seeing Yool defeat, confronted Lai Bang and his assistant and prepared to finish them both off. Lai Bang, who was increasingly frightened, ran away again like a coward. But this time Lai Bang who wanted to revenge her son's death. On the other hand, Linen had took down all of Lai Bang's. On the other hand, Lai Bang apparently survived from the death. Lai Bang then went to Cho to ask for Linen's location, as he wanted to catch him. However, when Lai Bang was finally able to cure Linen of his illness, At the end of the movie, Lenin ran towards Li Bang, then slashed his neck. The movie end.